Hi, I'm Maree Pigdon, and here I am today in London, and I'm so excited because I've had the chance to make a new best friend. So this is Claire-Louise, and we're here in her studio, and we've been exchanging teaching ideas and techniques and how we both run our sewing schools, and we've just been having the best conversation, and the time has just run away with us. It's just been so much fun. And so what I'd like to ask you is just to give me a little bit of background so that I can share that with all of our subscribers and sewing friends as to a little bit of your history as to what you've actually done prior to teaching and your studio that we see here today. So just some of your special memories.
Cool. I'm Claire-Louise Hardie, and I trade as the Thrifty Stitcher, so that's sort of like my alter ego, and I teach sewing classes in London. So I teach in London, everyone's really busy, it's a really busy city, so we tend to do lots of short classes, slightly different than your format. So I do standalone workshops. And before I ran the Thrifty Stitcher, or before I became the Thrifty Stitcher, I'm a theatrical costumer, and so I've spent my entire life sewing. I can't remember not sewing. I can't remember what it's like not to sew, and it's just such a big part of my life. So I worked as a costume maker for several years, and I mostly work these days as a wardrobe mistress, and that means that if you come and see my play on the very last night, it should look as good as it did on the very first night. So Maree and I have been having loads of chats and exchanging stories, and I'm sorry you guys weren't here to see all of that because we just had the best afternoon. And we're both really passionate about sewing.
Absolutely.
It's so wonderful to meet someone else that's as excited about sewing as I am. So I've kind of sewn all my life, as I said, and when a few years ago I read an article that people didn't sew anymore, and I couldn't believe that that was actually the case because I thought everyone sewed and could sew on a button. And then I did some research and realised that in London particularly, people can't even sew on a button. So that's why I thought I'd start teaching, because it's such a big part of my life that I couldn't believe people didn't have it in their life, and I wanted other people to get the same joy from it that I do.
And that's what you're doing here through the studio. So it's such a delight, as we both said earlier, is that we introduce a novice sewer that hasn't been able to sew on a button, let alone set a needle in the sewing machine. And then after so many hours of tuition that they create something, and it still gives me a buzz after all these years. I just love it, and I love the fact that there is such a new audience coming back into sewing. And so it's wonderful. I've been teaching 34 years now, and still plan on teaching for quite a few more, and it still gives me a thrill. And I didn't say to you, but I always wanted to be a wardrobe mistress.
Did you?
I always wanted to design theatre costume. I thought that would be, the top of the tree to do that. So you've done all of that.
Oh, I think you're at the top of the tree.
Oh, no, I always wanted to do that. But one thing that I was thinking of now, have you ever made anything that was just so outstanding, that was really a memorable piece in your costumes? Do you have one in mind?
I do, and a little blue piece moment. Here's one I prepared it. So this costume I made a very long time ago, and the skirt itself took 4 days to make because the texture on the skirt is strips of net that had triangles cut out of the edges, and they were stitched parallel and then folded over so it looks spiky. Then the second row was stitched parallel, and then the third row until you came up to here. So the whole costume took maybe just over a week to make. And I found it recently at the National Theatre. It's still in their hire department.
Is it really?
It doesn't look as nice as this now because it's about 15 years old, but it just was such an amazing thing to make. It was just such, I didn't design this, I just sewed it together, but the designer was so clever and so innovative, and seeing it on stage, it just gave me such a buzz to see something that I'd spent hours involved in.
That would be amazing to actually see your work on the stage, and that dress is magnificent.
It's fantastic.
You've done a fantastic job on making that one. So that is just fabulous, and I'm sure it's one of hundreds that you've actually created.
Yeah, I'm at the minute I'm trying to build my costume portfolio, and I'm sort of gutted that as a youngster I stopped taking pictures because I became so blasé about the things that we were making and sewing, because I worked for the National Theatre and I had the best of everything, and you don't realise that when you're in your 20s. And I've realised there are things I made that I don't have any record of, which is a shame. You must feel that way with all your bridal.
I do, but I have photographed almost most of the bridal gowns, yes, and the local ones I've attended, the weddings themselves, often as a guest, but just to see my gowns walk down the aisle to make sure that all the hems were perfect and the dresses were being worn as they should have been and designed to be. And so, yes, that's always a thrill. It's quite awesome, actually, when you think that you've had the privilege of making the bridal gown, the most important gown that girls will wear on that special day.
Yeah.
So I guess it's in par with yours. So yes, I have recorded, quite a lot of those.
Brilliant. Yeah.